Okay, there's a couple of reasons why I don't like talking about T1. They're a very likable team, and they have like the players are very likable, all of them. Although I would say I preferred Zeus over Doran for sure. But the reason why I don't like talking about T1 is like because I think all the conversations about T1 is just delusion, always. First of all, like they're the most watched esports team in the world, so they have like when you're this big, you're bound to have some mentally unwell fans, right? That's the first thing. But second of all, like people just because it's T1 and they're winning a lot and they're like known. People just like to hate on T1. And the player that gets like the most hate on T1 is like by far Gumayusi. Like for no reason. He didn't even do anything wrong. Like just like fucking amazing player. And obviously like, people are still like threatening him 24/7, sending chocks and whatever because of the role swap or like substitution position from earlier. And in general, like the past 3-4 years or whatever, Gumayushi's been the best T1 player overall. But he's the one who's getting blamed. And I'm just so tired of having this conversation because I called Gumayushi the best T1 player like 3 years ago or 2 or whatever it was. And here we are like, years later and it's the same narrative. It kind of reminds me of when I was a pro player. It's like people just spin the same narratives. Like, I don't know how many times I have to log into social media and I have to read that Gumayushi can't play Kai'Sa or something. Like, come on, man. It's like one of the best, at some point, even the best ADC in the world, right? I don't watch anymore, so I don't know how good he is nowadays. But like, I played against this guy in Korean solo queue. I watched like gazillion games of him. Like, just on another level as a player. Like, just one in a lifetime superstar. And people think that this guy cannot pick a champion. In 2025, having this outdated narrative when pro players can pick up new champions in literally 5 days of champion being released. Like, how can every pro player play Yunara? How? Every pro player can play Yunara. But it's a new champion. Every player can play it after 5 days of the champion being out. And we're having this narrative how he cannot play some champion or blah, blah, blah. It's like so disturbing, honestly. It's like genuinely disturbing. Like the narratives are so boring. They're so BS 24/7. Like I just don't want to spend any conversation or energy into T1. It's just so bizarre. In the meantime, let's talk about some things. So I saw this Reddit thread today. Who actually benefited from the Gwen rework? Serious question. Who are Riot keeping Gwen in this state for? She has now the same pre-crit as she did in 15.5 with double the ban rate while also having 4% lower win rate ML+. She's the worst champion in the game in lower ranks with a 44% win rate in silver. Okay, that I doubt already. That's probably a lie. This makes me think Riot wants her to be a high-elo champ. However, I see so often high-elo streamers complaining how broken she is. Who actually wins from her being in the state? Pro players, question mark. So this is like another thread where the Gwen players are insanely unhappy with the state of Gwen and they're asking for a revert on the changes. But Riot stepped out like a few weeks ago and said that, I think, if I remember correctly, they said that they basically didn't like the identity of Gwen being a Kayle, right? Like obviously the Gwen players liked Gwen being Kayle, but the Riot didn't like Gwen being Kayle, basically. And also, yeah, by changing the way, like giving her more agency in early game via E-buff, they did basically make her more considerate in pro play, right? Because I believe before that, Gwen was not really played in pro at all. So I kind of get the frustration that she is like now a lower winner champ and her identity is a lot more shifted. It's a lot more about early game than before. But I don't know if Riot's gonna revert Gwen. I don't think so. I don't know. Also, like, is it really 44% win rate in silver? I mean, maybe it is, right? Maybe it is 44% win rate in silver, but like the champ has insane mastery curve and it's not like she's supposed to be good in silver, right? It's like, I think her win rates are honestly fine. Like if I go to silver and I go top lane, right? And I scroll down. I don't know. Wait, did I sort it by win rate? I mean, I guess she has a bad win rate for sure, right? A lot of these champs aren't really top laners. Like, Cassandra also has a horrible win rate in silver, right? That's a top laner, right? Like, you could argue Gragas is a top laner, has also a horrible win rate in silver, right? Maybe not as horrible as Gwen, but a lot of champions will have bad win rate in this elo because they're just simply highly skewed. Like, I have to talk about this tweet right here. I saw this on Twitter the other day. So people now are mad that pro players or like challenger players are playing in Clash on an account that's Emerald 1 and that it ruined the Clash experience. Because of unbalanced matchmaking, they're tagging Drew11, the rioter. Obviously, the tweet got some traction, and if you go to the comments, people are obviously saying there's nothing wrong with that because the player was still, even though he's Emerald 1, the player was still counted as tier 1, which is like the highest tier. So the reality of Clash, in my opinion, besides this tweet, is that Clash is always going to be very hard to balance because Riot needs to basically make people play, right? They can't just make this Clash thing and then you can find teams of completely equal skill. So Clash would be very hard to balance, like especially in high MMR. Like, yeah, you can probably balance Clash easier for silver and gold players because there's a lot more players in queue. But you can't, it's very hard to balance Clash when, especially when in these tier 1s, when there's like one player in Master, one player in Challenge, and there's like 2 players Emerald and 1 Silver. It's very hard. Like, how do you balance that matchmaking? How do you make it so you have a completely fair game? I mean, it's almost impossible. Like, think about it from Riot's POV. It's like, it's near impossible. But that being said, like, that doesn't mean Clash could maybe get like matchmaking improved. It's like, I don't know how bad the matchmaking is in Clash. I don't know. I saw this news today. LVP to step down from organizing the Superliga. This, honestly, I don't know how to feel about it because basically the context is LVP, which is like the organization that has like the contract with Riot to have basically the Spanish league competition over. They laid off 59 people, apparently it was reported like a few weeks ago. And now, like a few weeks later, it's reported that they're basically not going to be organizing Superliga, which is basically the Spanish league ERL anymore in 2026. And they're gonna only be organizing Valorant. The reason why for me, this is kind of like, I don't know, like I can't say it's a good thing or a bad thing because back when I played in Mad Lions, which was 2018, like, you know, I was playing in this league under this organizer, LVP, and it was very good times. But obviously now we are like, what, 7 years later, and not just LVP, but like the other leagues, like every tier 2 league is doing very badly and there's no money in the scene and everyone is struggling. So, you know, it doesn't really surprise me, but at the same time, I don't know, like they're basically, the article says that Riot is going to find some other company that is going to basically be taking over the Spanish league for 2026. And, you know, it maybe someone else comes in that's actually better than LVP, or maybe someone else comes in that's actually worse than LVP. I don't know, I can't say, right? But I think it's still scary to see news like this because the future for tier 2 leagues is not looking too bright. Is where I'm coming at. Even if the kill me, it's worth if I take that over. But I'm surprised there's no objective bounties, so that means we're not even that behind. Or is it because we have 2 Joggons and it's messing up with the objective bounty trigger system? I wonder what it is. It's definitely not okay that we don't have objective bounties. How do we not have objective bounties? Like, it's 28-10 in kills. Enemy in Italy is 14-0. We don't have objective bounties. Why? I need to see the graph after this game. Like, how much behind are we and we don't have objective bounties? Because look, they're triggering now. 20 minutes 25, that's when they trigger. So remember this timestamp. Look, chat. We are 8.6k gold behind and we don't have objective bounties. You know why? Because we have 2 Joggons that give us no stats, that are completely useless. That's why. Because we have 2 Joggons. If we didn't have any Joggon, or if they had the Joggon, the objective bounties would already trigger here at 5k. They would trigger at 60 minutes. But instead, we are at 22 minutes and we don't get objective bounties because of how Joggons count as objective bounties. Completely cooked, horrible system. Completely horrible. I legit think if you had objective bounties, the chances of winning this game would be so much higher. Ranger, this change and the perma home guards made League a much worse game. This made laning phase boring. It's so hard to have enough time to punish the enemy because waves die so fast now. And even if you outplay the enemy and make them base at a bad time, they just sprint back. Funny enough, a huge part of the player base isn't even aware that this change was put into the game, and every time I talk about this in stream, people in my chat say, what minion change? The game has become so dull when laning phase has become very unskilled. It simply feels too difficult to actually get leads 1v1. Solo killing is too hard, and God forbid you ever succeed, the enemy will run back to lane in a nanosecond with home guards. Midland especially is so depressing to look at, literally Wavecare Simulator. I'm convinced these changes are more impactful than the current meta shows. So many champions that are able to just stonewall lanes, Wavecare and skill for Objective are way stronger than people think. Good example is Morgana solo lane. Just kinda screaming into the void with this post, but if there's a chance that anyone from Riot sees this, please consider removing, lowering the creep versus creep extra damage, making hunger it's not permanent. Also buff items please, thank you very much. Hey! Ranger will not a W take. Yeah. There's two things I want to add here. First of all, this minion change was probably the biggest change we got in 2024, 2023, 2025. I don't know when it happened. When was this minion change? Just 25.s, so it was this year that happened. It was the biggest change of this year. Yeah, this was bigger than like introducing Atakan or Grops or whatever the fuck else happened. Or the map change, I think. Here it says, it simply feels too difficult to get leads 1v1 anymore. But if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, solo killing felt impossible already before these minion changes. Like, already I think before the minion changes happened, it was a problem getting solo kills. So, yeah. I don't know if Riot would rework these minion changes. I feel like solo killing would still be difficult, but probably a little bit easier, for sure. But he's right. A lot of champions simply benefit from the changes, a lot of champions don't. I feel like for top laners specifically, I feel like champs who like proxying mega benefit from these changes because proxying is just easier, in my opinion, because of this. Because the waves just kill each other faster and then there's just less freezing, more fast pushing, and you can just proxy in a lot more instances when you come out of base and stuff like that. That's kind of my take.